right, we'll call the meeting order here. Commissioner Baxter is sick, will not be here. So we'll proceed. Call meeting order, approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you. New business?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come to a different location than we usually entertain for our work sessions. But we're on site at Wendell Fire Station. And the reason we're here is because you all, in the coming months or time frame anyway, will be in the process of designing a new fire station. So we thought it would be beneficial for you all to hear how the internal operations and the external public engagement can inform the design of a fire station, most specifically this fire station, but we'll give you some examples of how others have designed their fire stations as well. So that's just a general overarching view. I've got some information for you as well regarding the Zebulon Historic District. We'll talk about that at the end of the meeting. But with that, let me introduce Chief Perry so he can introduce our speakers for today.
I echo Joe and thank y'all for coming out here. We've been excited about getting you here to look at this facility. We hope that this facility will give you a really good insight into a modern fire EMS facility. It's easy to talk about it. It's easy to think about how it could look. This is a very nice facility built close to home, somewhere that we thought would serve as a really good example for each one of you. So we've got several of what I refer to as some of the experts that are either have been involved in this project and we hope will be involved in our project as well, or are just very well educated with this facility and can answer a lot of questions. So we're going to walk through the building and let them guide us through the facility, but I encourage you to ask questions. Again, these are the people that can answer so many of them. So starting at the back of the room, Mark Forestieri is the Director of Facility Design and Construction with Wake County. Very instrumental in this project as well as all of the county's construction projects. David Rutherford, one of Mark's project managers, who was the project manager for this project, has been working with us. You've heard us say over and over again about our Wake County partners with this project. These two gentlemen are just two of the ones that have been with us every step of the way, and we hope to continue that throughout the project. Chief Staples, Brian Staples, obviously, as many of y'all know, is the fire chief here in Wendell. The guy that kind of lives here, so to speak, with his department, being here as well as with the Eastern Wake EMS counterpart. So these three gentlemen will be available to answer any questions. And we've asked them as we take a tour, just point out different things that may be of value to you as we walk through and things that you may be interested in knowing about. So I guess before we get started, I'll pause just a second to see if anybody has any questions before we get started with the tour of the site. Well, very good. Chief Staples is going to do the honors of walking us around, and we'll all just kind of chime in as he carries us around. So, Chief, I don't know if you want to start with this room and how you guys have got it laid out and that kind of thing from there.
All right. First of all, welcome to the Wendell Falls Public Safety Center. As Chief Perry said, it's a Wake County project. This building was built and owned by Wake County, in which Wendell Fire Department and Eastern Wake EMS are co-located. The design of the building, David did a great job. We worked great with ADW. I would highly recommend ADW architects. But as far as our tour, starting here, this is our training room designed to hold 36 people. Half the chairs are out for social distancing right now. But the way the building's laid out, this room is self-contained from the rest of the fire station. So if we wanted to if the town needed a training facility for a day or so for the police, they would be able to come in here. And we would open the door. They have access to the inside. Of course, these are outside doors. And as you go out, you'll see there's two bathrooms. And then we have card access for the rest of the station. So this room actually could be used by outside agencies and not interfere or keep them out of the rest of the station. So that's a big plus. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do it as much as we'd like with COVID. So actually, y'all are the first outside group to use this room. So we appreciate y'all being able to host y'all. So, but yeah, 36-seat training room, storage in the back for the tables and the chairs, And then, like I said, this is self-contained. This area you'll see there's a men's and ladies' bathroom right there. So if anybody have any questions, we'll get up and we'll start heading out into the meat of the building then.
Oh, okay.
Right here in this area, originally, and they have not moved yet, but this is designed to house Eastern Wake EMS's administrative offices. So during the day, that door would be open, the exterior door would be open, and the public would be able to come in to that corridor, get out of the weather. There would be a phone, and they would call into either back of the station or to their administrative assistants, and then they could buzz them into the building to this area. But right with COVID right now, we're on complete lockdown, so everything's locked down. So right through here, as I said, if an outside group was using our facilities, they do have access to their own two bathrooms right down there. And then to get to the rest of the facility, card reader. The offices behind you, this is, like I said, this is designed, Eastern Wake EMS's administrative offices, 3 offices, a storage, and then file storage for all their records and things. This room is a small boardroom, but it also doubles as the safe room in the building. No exterior walls, complete concrete. So if we were to have a tornado or a storm, whoever's in this building would be able to come in here. This is a quote unquote safe room from weather. All right.
Chief Staples, if I could add.
Yes, sir.
If you can and imagine, where in our facility, we don't intend at this point to have an administrative area for EMS. We will most definitely have a EMS area, a administrative area for our fire staff. So you can almost envision this area being very similar to the administrative area that the fire department will house from where we're at today. So in basic concept, one would exchange with the other.
All right. I don't think this is EMS's day room. This is the day room for the EMS crew. Right, currently we house 1 ambulance crew, which is a 2-member crew, and then also Wake County's Medic 96, which is the advanced practice paramedic who is in a single responder unit, is also stationed out of here. But that's the EMS day room. No sleeping quarters for EMS. They're on 12-hour shifts, so they do not have any sleeping quarters. The only sleeping quarters are for the fire. Next office here is the EMS supervisor office, as well as a little small work alcove area. Hey.
Hey.
Multiple, at least 4 fire
Well, we'll do the kitchen right here. This is shared space between fire and EMS. Obviously, plenty of space. Currently, we only have 1 crew station here, 1 3-man company. And then the EMS. So, large kitchen. We basically divided it in half, and there's fire and EMS. There's 2 pantries behind you. Obviously, stoves, 2 refrigerators, plenty of cabinet space. Very nice. There's also a gas shutoff. So if they're in the middle of cooking, either on the grill or on the stoves, get a call, just hit a button and head out the door. So hopefully we don't burn up the fire station while we're gone somebody else's call. So, but this is a very nice a room in here. Love these floors that are in the kitchen too. These are great.
The fire department put a nice touch with their own custom tables.
We actually built. I had a firefighter who built these tables. The legs look exactly like the outriggers on our ladder truck. If you'll see, it's got holes in them where to put the outrigger pins. But yeah, we actually had a firefighter build these tables for us, and turned out really well. Actually, one of your cohorts, Commissioner John Boyette, who was a captain with us, he built them. So John did a good job. Last office spaces over here. These are the fire offices. Currently, this is for us. This is a substation. I'm still downtown, so the captain is in this office, his office right there, and then we have a radio room and works area where the firefighters and others can use this space.
As you'll see with the layout, there's obviously dedicated areas for EMS, whether they both have their own, EMS has a day room, firefighters have a day room. They have a couple, EMS has an office or two, but the benefit of co-locating is that you get the benefit of the shared space, like exercise room, and kitchens and so forth. But EMS even has their own bathrooms and locker rooms, which are separate as well. So certainly it seems to be a really good fit.
Matter of fact, we'll go right back that way. Since David just mentioned that, we'll go through the kitchen. This again, the kitchen, real good flow. Because from the kitchen, there's 2 exits right out to the bays to get to the apparatus. That door goes out to the bays. This is the fire day room.
If you go to the fire room, one interesting important part about the vestibules that you take you out of from the bay into the space is their airlocks, which are, fire safety is for all, and EMS safety is the most important. So we create these airlocks to reduce carcinogens entering the space when they're working in the bay. There's also showers areas or a decon room off of the bay so that they don't track that into the living space.
And right out off the day room, small courtyard where they're able to cook.
I heard that devil.
I was talking about me.
Yeah, right. It is.
Move to the bedroom. We're going to go right that way to the day room.
But you're spot on though. There's a lot of places where that's standard operating equipment.
Yeah.
We're going to head this way into the dormitory side. This is just the IT room with all the computer equipment, the phones and all that stuff. Janitor's closet with the supplies and the biggest hot water heater I've ever seen. Yep. Just a storage closet which we use for uniform storage. This is the fire dormitory side.
Looks like my dorm room. That makes sense.
We toured a lot of different stations and to this look and see how we wanted to design this space. And along with cancer prevention, sleep deprivation is a big issue in the fire service. So we wanted this to be a true sleeping area. So there are no TVs in the bedrooms. When the guys watch TV, they're together in the day room. There's room for 12 firefighters. Again, currently we have one company here, so we have plenty of space. The one thing that they really love, that we don't have at our other 2 stations, are these huge lockers where they're able to leave all their uniforms here at work. So they can come to work in street clothes, get in their uniform and be ready to go. Same thing when they're ready to leave. Leave them here. You'll see we got laundry facilities. That way, as David mentioned, even on their regular uniforms, they're picking up carcinogens. So those are things we don't want to carry home when we don't have to. So again, true sleeping quarters. There's no TVs in here.
each fireman assigned their own bed or?
We have enough beds across all 3 shifts. For right now, they don't have to share a bed at all.
No hot bed?
No.
Okay.
So I think through the history of the fire service, you've seen they've had individual bedrooms. There have been dormitories. It kind of changes, but I think for us this is really working good. And especially with the COVID situation, there's only 3 people sleeping here at a time, so they're able to spread out and maintain that social distancing.
So this is the locker.
These are their lockers, yes, ma'am. At our other 2 stations, we don't have anywhere near this kind of storage space, and they're not able to. If you keep your uniforms, it's in a bag or a tote or something. Here, they're able to leave all their uniforms here at work, and what they need is here for them. So.
It's good sound installation. Also, the lights you can turn off, and the mechanical system is zoned separately so that some, firefighters might need to sleep a little bit more cool during summer or something like that. So,
At night when the call goes off, when we have a call, the lights come on, the buzzer sounds. So even the heaviest sleeper's not going to sleep through a call. They're going to wake you up. So, all right. From here, we're going to go right down this corridor because this one leads right out to their bathrooms. Just a basic linen closet at the end of the hall, and then 4 bathrooms on this hall for the firefighters.
Do you have any female firefighters?
We do not at the current time. We've tried to. We've been unsuccessful in hiring them. We hired 9 when we opened this station, and there were several that tried to hire, but they went to work for Raleigh instead. So at this time, we do not. Which this station is set up perfectly, I feel, for them. Our station 2 is a very small station, and the bedroom is much smaller. Actually, it's so small the showers, and there's a shower inside the bedroom area. So we probably wouldn't station a female firefighter up there, but here at Station 3 or at Station 1, no issue at all. So good space. But like I said, 4 bathrooms here. Down this hall at the end,
that's the benefit of doing individual bathrooms.
Yep. And they're all single bathroom. This is laundry facility, residential laundry, which is again a shared space between us and EMS. The guys are able to wash their uniforms. EMS obviously washes a lot of sheets and stuff on the stretchers. That's just an exterior door. We're gonna head right around the corner. The exercise room is right here.
Good gym, too.
So exercise room, great rubber floor. They drop no weights or anything. For a 3-man company, this is probably big enough. But if we had 2 companies here, if 6 people working out here, may be a little tight. But with 3, it's plenty big. I think we've got about as much stuff in here as we can. So they enjoy it. The fans work really good moving air. So they've enjoyed this space. All right. We're going to shoot straight out that door to the bay floor, the apparatus floor. We got 4 very nice large drive-through bays. The share space is Wendell Fire has this whole the middle 2 bays completely, in the half of the other bay, and EMS has half of that one, and then this entire bay is theirs. So we have lockers up to the front where EMS's employees store their items. There is an EMS drug storage where they store their drugs, so we don't have access to that. But we do have a nice tool room right here, in here, which has the access to the roof, and most importantly, also the IT team is in here. It's not on the bay floor. Currently, it's Station 1, ours on the bay floor, so it's the same place where vehicle exhaust is. Here, it's stored away from that, so that's very nice. We have the air vac system. That's what the big red units are, that when the doors go up, these units come on and circulate clean air, as opposed to the Plymouth vent system you may see that where hoses plug up to the trucks. This allows us we can put any truck in any place. We're not kind of tied in by vehicle exhaust where certain trucks need to park. So we love this system. Like I said, when doors go up, that system runs for about 6 minutes, circulating air. If we want it to run just to hit the clean air, we'll hit the system. But very big as far as helping with getting the carcinogens and things out of here.
It's kind of a secondary system. We have an exhaust system as well, so the carbon monoxide and detectors pick up, and we'll turn on the fans, which give you cross ventilation. You see them on the walls, and then the air scrubber is just a supplemental, just to make sure we have really good, clean air for everybody.
Gear lockers on the side. That's one thing we don't have that is also big. You see in some stations is storage of turnout gear away from the bay floor, keeping it away from the exhaust fumes. But we like the gear lockers. That's working well. The last thing we have off the bay floor is our decom room. All right. There we go. In here we have the extractor that cleans our turnout gear, the drying cabinet, industrial sink. But we also have a shower. In this door, they have access directly from the outside. So if turnout gear is dirty, we're able to bring turnout gear in and get it right to the extractor without taking it through. We already don't allow it in any of the living quarters, but this also keeps it off of the bay floor. So very beneficial having that. But again, the gear dryer and the extractor are both in there. A lot of security with the doors as far as the eyes. Hopefully we don't drop a door on a truck. Also, if they forget to shut the door, there's sensors and loops that will automatically close the doors after we leave. But as you'll see when we go back in, there's key codes on the doors. So if they did forget to close the door, somebody might be able to get in here, but they couldn't get into the rest of the station without knowing the pass code. And it's a uniform code, so if Wake County EMS brings a truck up here, their personnel are able to card access into the building and be able to get inside. So, anything else, Chief, you want to see, talk about?
I'll also mention, Chief Staples mentioned the drive-through bay, so you can see like the larger vehicles, he leaves the space beneath it open, so when the truck returns from a call, it can enter from the rear of the building and pull up. It minimizes the backing, especially on the smaller vehicles. It's not that big of an issue, and you see they've got their brush truck and an additional ambulance over there. But the large vehicle, it obviously reduces the amount of backing issues, into incidents that may occur from backing. So they can just literally, and where the name comes from, drive-through bays, you can just drive the truck through and reposition it so it's ready for the next call. So it's a very effective way to do that. So.
And currently, our ladder truck is stationed in town, but these bays are large enough that we'd be able to move that truck out here or add another ladder truck if necessary. So, yeah, having those drive-through bays for safety purposes is huge.
To give you all a sense of scale, this site is about 2 3/4 acres. but it's not, there are stormwater devices required with new projects, as you might be familiar with. And this is actually part of a corporate BMP that's shared, or a stormwater device that's off-site. So if it was a self-contained project, that stormwater would obviously need real estate and the cost of constructing it on the property. And that's why this site was able to be so efficient. And also, this building is about 16,500 square feet, to give you an idea of how the size you're walking through. And as Chief mentioned, that the unique component with this, because we do a lot of co-locating with EMS, with fire, but we don't have the administrative component, which is obviously, you saw the footprint there with 3 offices, a file room, and a small conference room. So that's an additional amount of square footage that we wouldn't have in a normal co-location at, it's Garner 4 and a couple others. So that just sort of gives you a sense. This project also was a first for us under our new energy guidelines. And we also, so it's a very efficient building that we can monitor with our control systems. And we also did a photovoltaic system on this building, which is our first new build with PV on it, that you might have seen outside on the roof.
Hey, if you also just speak a little bit about the site layout, because you've got parking on different sides of the building and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I meant to comment on that, so that you don't have public, because of the nature of the way it was set up, as you saw, where if you wanted to have an outside group come in, you're not crossing with firefighters or EMS or the emergency response vehicles, that you had a separate entrance, separate parking lot, whereas all the firefighters and staff would be on the right-hand side when you go outside. Also, those spaces are also usually bigger, because firefighters tend to have trucks, big trucks. So it's a good way to keep that, any incidents with the response getting out, and not having, impeding the firefighters or EMS from leaving the bays.
David brings up a really good point, a couple things to think about, and we've mentioned in a couple different ways, but different areas of the building for different levels of that. You got public areas where the public can come and go, and then some, the sleeping quarters, for example, are very private areas. So the building is typically divided up into those areas that are more public accessible, and potentially maybe, for us, our administrative areas are a very public area. We have people, the general public comes and goes to obtain permits, burning permits, or to get permits to do some construction work through our fire code enforcement office. So the building will be designed to enable the public to come into those areas in somewhat of a controlled manner. They won't have free access to the building, but it will be designed for that intent. Where other areas are more intended for the crews or just like you mentioned with the way the parking is separated. Additionally, on top of that, David and Chief Staples both mentioned, even from a level of potentially cancer causing, this area we're in here, the gear could have cancer materials in it, or the trucks are potentially. So this is considered a hot area of potential in here. But the room behind us, this decon room, is intended to clean some of that up, to clean it and to make sure the personnel don't get exposed, or if they are exposed, they're able to wash it off and clean off and not carry those into the cold areas, those areas of the kitchen and the living quarters and the office areas. So there's a couple of different zones, if you will, of the building that kind of maintain to keep things where they should be, whether it's, the public that may be wandering the building, or if it's just unclean stuff that we want to keep the unclean stuff in parts of the building and keep the rest of the buildings clean. So from a design perspective, there's a lot of different things to kind of balance there, and they did a very good job with that here. So just something else that kind of came to mind as you guys were talking about it.
As you can imagine, building a 50-year building, the materials are very intentionally selected. The parking lot's all concrete, heavy trucks coming in and out. They last a lot longer than the asphalt. For instance, when we can afford it, we try to do all concrete parking lots, and pick materials. In this case, we prefer a polished concrete floor. It's low maintenance and it's going to be around forever. Standing seam metal roofs, outside all masonry, things like that. So it's very durable for both the occupants as well as just the environment around. So
I think one of the design challenges that people have is you're building a building today that's got to not only be prepared for what the emergency service provider will need in 5, 10, 15, 20. Most fire stations are built for 50 years plus. So, and I've used this example, you all have heard me say it, when they built the station that we're in now, I mean, look at the size that fire trucks were in the early 70s compared to the trucks we're putting in them now. So to build a building with anticipation of how will we meet the needs in many, many years to come, that's an incredible design challenge. But it's fire stations are not built to last for 10 years. They're built to last for, again, 40, 50 years. And that presents, especially in an area that's growing as rapidly as Eastern Wake County is, you know that the emergency services are going to have to grow to keep up with the demand. So you got to build facilities that will accommodate that. So.
And they do run 24/7, 365, which is, different than an office building and other things. So you have that constant wear and tear and that energy efficiency. You get payback much quicker when you're using it 24/7.
And firefighters can tear up anything. They can tear up an anvil.
Chief Staples, anything you else want to point out? We'll take any questions anybody may have.
No. We appreciate the partnership with Wake County. They built us a great building, and we look forward to being out of here for a long time.
The questions you may have on the building, what you've seen, or anything you'd like to see?
I will say that the building is sprinklered. It has a full centrally monitored alarm system for smoke, fire, carbon monoxide. And then, of course, like David said, all the functions are monitored, the air. So a lot of times if we have an issue, call GSA, they're able to look at the screens and say, do this or do that. So that's been a big plus.
It has the building fully generator backup. You probably saw the generator out back. And that's also monitored by GSA and serviced monthly.
Any questions before we go back to the other part? So our next part is a public engagement piece. We told you we would do that as well today. We've got our people that are going to kind of walk us through that are all on Zoom. So we'll need just a few minutes to get them connected up and ready to go. Mayor, about 10 minutes or so, does that sound okay with you if we start back? That way if anybody needs to use the facility or whatever? Very good. And we'll plan on meeting in about 1:45 and we'll get started back up then.
All right, look, while they're doing that, let's go ahead and move on some of this. And if we have to break off once they get set, fine. Let's talk about the historic district first. I think everybody received some information about it. So I guess the question really is, and there's a lot here. I've got this call for me to have a question just on the district itself, but how do you feel about the staff report and then also the proposal of the document that we would adopt? I've got a little bit of change I want to put on that in the spot, but nothing major. The resolution? Yeah.
I think it's fine. I think we need to have it that way.
Do you see any changes in anything? I have one question. If it's a contributing building, does that automatically put restrictions on it?
I don't know that. I think that goes to the fact that this is a rushed, non-public participatory process. People have questions just like the one you asked. So I don't know the answer.
Well, the reason I ask it, my house is in there as a contributing building, and I never knew that, So, and it may not, but you're right. That's the type of questions that we would have. The plan is for us to, in February, adopt that, and then I would present it at their meeting, if it gets to their meeting. Now, we may find some ways to slow it down anyway. We'll be sure that they met all the certain criteria. You got anything?
No, I'm just informing you all that I'm going to put this on your agenda.
All right.
And I wanted to see if there was like any initial reactions that I could consider to change some of the language. I've already seen some things in the staff report that I want to change, but I wanted to see if anything jumped out at you. The most important thing, though, in addition to giving you a heads up, is this thing is very rushed and it's very technically complex. And so you all need some time to digest the information. And so that's the biggest reason I've given this to you is please take a look at their application form. Please take a look at the criteria associated with the tax credits. And then as you read the staff report and the resolution, if you have any questions or comments, let me know directly. Just don't reply all. You have to funnel them directly to me. So that's the biggest thing, is just to make you aware that this will be on your agenda, but that there's a lot of information here. It's been compressed due to forces outside of your control or out of the initiative of others, and I just wanted to get it in front of you.
Yeah, we actually, I know Larry was on and you were on. We spoke to them and asked them to provide, them be prepared, and offered to meet with their board and explain, and they didn't want us to do that. Pretty disappointing. Anybody got any other ideas about, one thing that's not in here, Joe, is, unless I skipped over it somehow, forgot it, is the size of the
In the resolution?
building.
Okay.
And then I've got a few notes there if you want to take this.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Just, ooh, sorry about that. Just some thoughts.
Good.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Okay. I thought we could knock that out pretty quick.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
I apologize for the confusion. They were having a little bit of issue with Chief Grayson's ability to show the presentation, but we're overcoming that. So let me see if I can move this out of the way. Today we've got a couple of gentlemen here to walk us through public engagement. Chief Wes Hutchins and Chief Greg Grayson. Greg's group worked quite a bit through the League of Municipalities, so we thought they'd be a really good group to bring in. They've got a lot of expertise on the subject. In essence of time, I'm not going to spend any more time, but to go ahead and get them going. And Chief Grayson, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to make sure that everybody can hear you as well.
All right. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to be with you here this afternoon, and thank you for all that you're doing for the people of Zebulon. As I was saying a moment ago, I appreciate the opportunity to get to be with you here in Zebulon, and thank you for your public service to the people of Zebulon as well. I've always had great interactions in Zebulon and had a chance to work through some emergency situations there, and appreciate the good people of Zebulon as well. We have a few things that we would like to share with you here this afternoon, and then Chief Hutchins is going to help in taking some questions that you might have. I'm going to give a little bit of an overview about our group, what we do, and then some of the background information about fire stations. I know you've had a chance to see a facility there in Wake County today, and so you will have an opportunity to give a bit of an overview, and then we'll be glad to take questions that you might have. So we do have a PowerPoint. The link for some reason is not working, so Chief Perry is going to change slides. We'll do it the old-fashioned way, and he'll change slides as we go through. So again, thanks for the opportunity to be with you here today. Chief, if you'll advance that for us, please. We do provide assistance for municipalities throughout North Carolina. We're the League of Municipalities consulting provider for all fire service needs. We work Murphy to Manio, North Carolina. We focus 100% on North Carolina, any type of fire service needs. We do a lot of station location, station type facilities, but we do all types of needs, from strategic plans to search and selection, a lot of HR work, all those types of things that are fire service related. We have a great group of people who have a tremendous amount of fire service experience, and we're distributed throughout North Carolina. So our focus is total North Carolina and fire service. We work through the league. We also work a lot with school of government. So we appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today. Okay. Next, just a few of the cities that we have worked with here recently. You'll probably notice some municipalities near you. We have quite a bit of number of municipalities in Wake County that we have worked with and are currently working with near you. Okay. One of the things that I think it's important to look at when you are in the process you're considering today is that it's really all based around continuous improvement. What are we doing today? What can we do differently? What are the options we have? What do we make changes in? We reevaluate, we adjust, we continue to do that over and over. It's really just a cycle. It's really a journey more so than a destination, because as your community grows, as Zebulon is growing, so do your needs change, and it's a continuous process of reevaluating and making adjustments moving forward. Okay? One of the most important decisions the local government makes is a fire station location. I had the honor of serving as a municipal fire chief about 17 years, and during that time, we built about 7 or so new fire stations. I had about the same number of major renovations, reconstructs of fire stations. It's a big task. It's a significant item for a community. Fire stations have long lives. And so the stations are typically built for a lifespan of about 40 years. Reality, most stations are somewhere around 70 years. So fire stations are long term. I was served as fire chief in Asheville, and we had a station we were looking at moving and consolidating. And you don't want to be on the opposite side about talking about closing a station in a community. So it's sometimes difficult in placing, but also very difficult in moving or changing. So it really becomes part of the infrastructure of a community. And so it is very much a long-term decision for any local government. And I have a couple pictures of a newer station that I was involved with here, and just saying that it is an important long-term decision for any local government. Okay? Mapping is really essential. And in today's, we have a lot of tools available to us today to be able to determine where the best location for a station is. And we've been doing a number of projects recently. This year, we frankly had more station location projects than we had even anticipated. But mapping really becomes so very important, because you have to look at the community, and we have some great tools to do that with through the geographical information systems, be able to look at the tremendous amount of data that's available through those GIS systems. So mapping is really essential, and use of data is really essential. And you have done that in Zebulon, and we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. But here's just a couple of communities that we've been working with through our group, Moorhead and Graham communities here that we have used a lot of mapping with. Okay? But when you look at that optimum location, again, because fire stations are such long-term investments and such long-term infrastructure for any community and any municipality, we look at something called a vulnerability risk index, and you look at all those pieces that are indicators and all that data that is out there, and everything you can possibly touch and pull that data together, both what's here today and what's projected. So you look at all those types of network and infrastructure components that are available, all the drive time analysis, what level of service have you provided? Are you providing? Do you hope to provide moving forward? You look at the insurance components. What's your current rating? Where are the deficiencies? What variables could change that? Where is the population today? How's the population changing? We do a lot of work with community risk reduction. Where are the barriers within your community? And what factors are happening with the demographics also within the community? And then where is the hazards within your community? Where are the demands? Where's the density? What's happening historically? Where are the call volumes occurring at historically? And really looking at the hazards and risks. So putting all that together into a fairly complicated and complex formula to determine where is a station really needed? Where is an optimum location for a station? Or where is the next station needed? So a tremendous amount of data goes into that. And the great news is I understand Zebulon has done that. And there's a tremendous amount of work goes into that process. So I applaud you for having the foresight and the vision to be able to do that in Zebulon and have looked at all of that type of data, and as we do the same in North Carolina as well. Okay. This is just a couple ideas or examples when we look at demand, those same communities I showed you a moment ago. This is just how some of this looks visually. This depicts some of the density pieces. It depicts some of the areas where call volumes are occurring or populations may be occurring. And you look at how that is depicted today and how is it changing. We're blessed in North Carolina in many ways that many areas of our state are growing, just as Zebulon's growing. With that growth, though, comes changes in dynamics and changes in trends and pressures on your public safety providers. So trying to see what those are and how they're going to change based on what we know trends are going to be happening and what trend lines are going to be following. Okay. The ISO, the insurance piece, is also very important because as you try to support your business community, one of your effective economic development tools is working to establish and maintain the best insurance rating that you can. And using that as a tool for your economic development within your community. So we do look closely at the insurance piece, and I know that you have done that as well in Zebulon. So as we look at some of those insurance pieces, this is, again, another city, but that's an important part. And again, following some of that mapping piece that we talked about earlier. Okay. So putting all that together, you look at each of the areas of your community, and this may be familiar to you. This, again, is another jurisdiction, but you do this modeling to determine in each of these areas where needs are, and then you're able to determine in this area, this is where we need a fire station. This is an optimum location. And again, because stations are 40 to 70 plus year locations, you want to choose wisely. You want to choose what's best for your community based on everything you have available to you. And so this diamond model is often used to be able to do that, putting all of those risk variables together in one place. And so again, another community, but similar. You have something, I believe, very similar for that in Zebulon already. Okay. So then once you have that work done, which you have already done in Zebulon, then really the next step that you move to is, what do you want that to look like? You have an area that, this is the area that the data says, this is where the facts say this building needs to be. This is the area, this is our focus area, this is the place that this needs to be. You then start thinking about, well, what does the interior of the station need to look like? What does that need to involve? And then what does the outside look like? And so we want to take just a moment to speak to that. You've had the chance to be in the station there in Wendell Falls and see a little bit about what's going on. And so let's talk about each of those parts for just a moment. First, let's talk about interior. Okay. On the interior, we would say to you, you've had a chance to walk through the building. Much of that's rather regulated. So most fire departments we work with, cities, municipalities, they will use a specialty architect. There are architects that really specialize in fire stations. I'm not sure all the background in Wendell Falls, but there are several architects that really specialize in stations. And the reason is that they're 24-hour use. So they have experience in knowing here's what works in 24-hour environments, the more rugged use, the heavy duty use, hardened for weather, hardened for the type of use that it involves. And also so many things happening in the fire service right now with cancer awareness, cancer prevention, having hot zones, warm zones, cold zones for gear and equipment and toxins, cancer is just a huge issue in the fire service right now. And the goal is to make sure that firefighters don't carry any of those toxins home, and making sure that there's separations and barriers. And then the whole issue with living space, making sure that the living spaces are adequate, and that they're set up correctly, and that they're set for gender and long-term use of what that's going to look like in the future. So there's a lot of industry best practice. So there are certainly some local elected official decisions that could be impacted a little bit on the interior, but I would say, and Chief Hutchins may have some experience with this as well, but there's not a whole lot of variable with the interior, because you have some specific needs. There's a standard, a national standard about how to construct stations, what some sizes need to be, particularly since the cancer standard has been so readily valid within the fire service. That's become very important. So usually specialty architects work on that, and there's not a lot of variable on the interior of the station. But there can be input, but not a whole lot for local elected officials in that parameter. However, let's move on now to talk about the exterior. And I think the exterior is completely a wide open field. And so the exterior, there is every community, very rarely, or unless a community chooses to do so, very rarely are fire stations ever really look the same. There's so much variance in appearance, the aesthetics. It's a great opportunity to engage the public. And it's really an opportunity to get involvement through the public and gain buy-in. To see this is the community's fire station. This is the town's fire station. This is the people of Zebulon's fire station. So there's an opportunity for ownership and pride, and to try to get the right fit for the community and the right fit for Zebulon. Just one example of that some communities really want to have a meeting space or a opportunity to do that. You may or may not need that, but by having some community engagement, you're able to see if that type of thing is something of interest. And so we work with some communities and try to encourage that level of community engagement about the exterior, if you will, of the building. Sometimes that leads to some of the community needs or interior needs that might be needed. But again, it's a really good opportunity to engage on the exterior of the building. And we'll share just a few things that we see across North Carolina that tends to be realistic when we talk about the exterior of stations. So if you'll go to the next slide for us, please. So I gave some examples of some North Carolina stations, and they vary as we think about that community engagement. But when you use community engagement for the exterior, it really helps that win-win. And I know as public servants, we're all after a win-win solution when everybody has ways they can contribute and have that buy-in, have that ownership, and have that pride. And so these are just some examples from the mountains to the coast here of different stations, and it says aesthetically responding to the community. So what does the community want that community fire station to look like? And by having some listening sessions and hearing from your community, you as elected officials can certainly respond to that and address those needs up front, and be good neighbors and be able to bridge those gaps and address those concerns early in the process. And so just a couple pictures of those that may give you some ideas and suggestions. Okay. So we do encourage what we would call community listening sessions. We encouraged having some of those early discussions prior to any architectural work. So just right out of the gate, once you know this is where we're going to be, right out of the gate, what are your thoughts? What are your ideas? What are your concerns? We think that's good up front to share with your architectural team without them there, just your town staff. Hearing what community feedback is there early on. What are the concerns? What are the issues? What some of the base needs? Tell them that really up front. We find also then it's really good once the architect group has been able to do some initial work, have some more listening sessions, maybe share that with them, share some of those initial design drawings and work with them and here's what we're working on. What's your thoughts about that? What's your suggestions? What's your ideas? What's your questions? And get some reactions to those initial designs. And then if you choose to, you can come back and ask for reaction to final design. Again, you're showing this is what we're listening up front. Here's some drafts, here's some final. So you're getting a lot of engagement from people who want to participate and give feedback because, again, it is part of the Zebulon community, so you get that feedback early on. And it really does address those needs. It's a great way to demonstrate transparency for the town that you're listening to those needs. You may not be able to respond to all of them because obviously some of those needs may have a cost to them that you don't have the funds to be able to meet. But you can listen to those and see which ones that you can. But an important piece of that, obviously, is if you listen to those needs, then it certainly helps to build those measures of public trust. So oftentimes we'll see something early on that's town staff, and then somewhere in the equation, giving an opportunity for residents to have interaction in some way with the architects group, and then be able to respond or react to that in some way. So just a couple opportunities to gain feedback and input from your residents will be valued in that fire station feedback to get good buy-in and create a good win-win situation. Okay. Some of the most common things that we see across the state, landscaping is often a request that people have. We did a lot of work with Wake Forest here recently, and they had a station that the neighborhood did not want to come. You may remember that. Neighborhood didn't want them there. And then when we were doing work with them, that flipped once they came. The neighborhood really likes them now. But they did some things to help with that. They planted some trees as buffer. They did a berm between the station and the neighborhood. They listened to some of the concerns, and Town of Wake Forest responded to that. And now, at least from the town's perspective and the town manager and the firefighters who are in the station we talk to, they have folks bring them cakes and cookies, and they visit with them, and they feel like they have very good relations with those neighbors. But they listen to them, and they reacted well to the concerns. They responded with some landscaping. They helped deal with some of the lighting issues. They used a low impact lighting in the back parking lot at Wake Forest, just using Wake Forest as an example. But really, another piece of this that's helpful is you get to have some dialogue. And you start building relationships because a station takes about 2 years from beginning of construction until they're operating. It's about a 2-year process. I remember one of the fire stations I was building in Asheville. We were working through the station construction. We had a huge rain. Well, we had some runoff. Well, we had done these community engagement meetings, and some of that runoff went to this gentleman's property. Well, he knew me. I'd been out there. He got my card and called me and said, I got some runoff out here. I'm not happy. We got out there. We took care of it. We fixed it. He was happy again. So, but have it because he knew who we were and, what we were having. And I had several calls before we were finished with that project. But he had a contact. He knew who I was. He knew who the fire, he had a face and a name and a contact when there was a problem. And he didn't have to go through a lot of hoops to have a contact there. And so what you're doing is you're building relationships, and you're able to help them know, this is my contact. This is who I call when I have a concern or problem, because you're going to have some. Any construction project, you're just going to have some. You want to be a good neighbor. And so those listening sessions help you to be a good neighbor. And that's something I have seen throughout the projects I've been involved with. Okay. So we have Chief Wes Hutchins with us here today, and Chief Hutchins works with our group. He is just a super individual. He is served for many years as the fire chief of Walkertown Fire Department. He is also has served as the Forsyth Community College Fire Program Coordinator. He is retiring from that role, and he's also now becoming the Executive Director of the North Carolina Association of Fire Chiefs. I will say to you, though, that he is, in addition to all those roles, he is the Mayor Pro Tem with the town of Walkertown. And so he served as a council member with Walkertown, and he served as Mayor Pro Tem. So he has fire service experience, but he also has served, like you serve, in an elected official role. So he has a different perspective than I have. I've been on a fire chief role, but he has served as fire chief. He's also served as an elected official. And we wanted him to share his perspective today with you on some of the areas we talked about, and then help with questions that you might have this afternoon as well. So, Chief Hutchins, maybe things that you would like to add to what we shared, and other comments that you would like to elaborate on.
Sure. Thank you for that, Greg. I appreciate the opportunity. And Mayor, Council, thank you folks for allowing Chief Grayson's group to work with you folks. It's a great opportunity. Tell you a little bit of my background, and Chief Grayson did a good overview of it. We're a small community just northeast of the city of Winston-Salem. We incorporated in 1984 to keep the city of Winston-Salem from eventually incorporating our whole area, just to maintain our identity. We actually got our roots go back to 1871. The community was actually identified as a crossroads. We were originally part of Stokes County, if you're familiar with our part of the state. In the early 2000s, when I was still a member of the fire department, I ran and was successful as a council member. After that, I gave up my council's position and became fire chief, and I served in the NAP role for 15 years. And then, as I retired at the end of 2018, my mayor approached me about coming back on the board. Sometimes I think I should have had some better judgment, but it is a good fit for me. I was elected to serve on our council, so I'm in my second term, but my second year is that term. So during that, I learned a lot about working with our council and also with our fire department. We are one of the fastest growing areas in Forsyth County. Last year we grew at 16%. And so you can imagine the challenges that we have right now. And I'll be the first to tell you, and our mayor and our council know this, we have a real problem with our identity. We have a main street, but we don't have a main street. Our main street consists of a public library, our elementary school, a church, our post office, a couple of small businesses, our town hall, and our fire department. So in 2000, we decided we were going to build a new fire station facility. And to not affect the response time in the district, we worked with 6 different landowners to build a fire station back probably 300 yards from our original station was built in 1953. It was quite a challenge. It took us about a year to work with 5 different landowners and to build the station that we're in now. I served as our building committee chair, and I was a chief officer, not the chief, but I think if we had it to do over again, we would probably incorporate a lot of things that Chief Grayson mentioned in his presentation. And the reason I say that, we've shifted, our town has shifted 4 different times. And when I say shift, the business area shifted. We shifted around a long-term hardware store that served our community. That was our first shift from Main Street to our first shift. The second shift was probably a half mile south of that district. The next shift shifted probably another half mile, maybe a mile south. And now that shift again is running east and west. So our fire station right now is not in a desirable location. And I think you'll appreciate this. We've been in negotiations with DOT for the last 20 years to widen a thoroughfare to relieve some of our traffic problems. Of course, you know, DOT now says that they're bankrupt. They don't have any money. So our project has got shifted again. We were at one point number 2 on our transportation improvement project list, and now we're down to about number 6, which is very frustrating for us because that affects our fire department response time. We have to go through a major thoroughfare to get to the central business district right now. And that's created a lot of growing pains because in that central business district, the growth is phenomenal. We just finished our second apartment complex added in the last 3 years. We've added over 20 3-story apartment building complexes that has just exploded. Well, tack on to that, NCDOT now wants to widen US Highway 140, North Carolina Highway 158. They want to multi-lane in it, and that goes back almost 40 years ago. So I guess the point of my conversation with you is I think you really need to consider your station location. Listen to what your fire officials tell you. They know the response area a lot better than and I assume a lot better than you do. They know the challenges. If we had to do over again, I think we probably would have taken a different route and looked at maybe 2 stations versus 1 central station. We plan, and we've done very well with the central location, but it's probably a little bit, I hate to say it, but it's a little bit too large for what we need versus we could have done 2 smaller stations instead of responding out of 1 central area out, we could have responded from 2 smaller areas in. And that's just some considerations. Had we known the growth, I don't think we would have built the facility that we have now. We did plan. As Chief Grayson mentioned, the interior part. We planned for additional sleeping quarters to expand the staff. We planned for a ladder truck that we now house in our station. Didn't have to do any retrofits to house that equipment. And then the other consideration that we should have made was housing an EMS unit. And we do house an EMS unit now through the county at our station, and that's come with some growing pains to work with those 2. So I'll be glad to share some of my additional thoughts or take questions from you folks. And Chief Grayson, I'll hand it back over to you. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
So again, we just try to kind of outline, there's a very technical, data-driven process about where does a station go, and then you shift gears and think about, well, the interior, that's pretty technical too, and there's specialty architects and standards that govern much of that. There's a lot of opportunity though about exterior and the appearance, and a tremendous amount of opportunity for community engagement there. That's wide open, and really encourage you to think about, listening sessions and community involvement there, and such an opportunity for pride and ownership with that component. And then you're very blessed to have done work already. You're way ahead because you've done the technical piece about the location. You're today seeing some of the interior features of Wendell Falls and what a station in the 2020s looks like on the inside. And then we're here to try to help you with that community engagement piece, or what our experiences have been with that, and what's happening across North Carolina that we're aware of and that we help other cities with. We're glad to try to help that. Chief Hutchins is here as a mayor pro tem in a town that it has similar challenges that you might be facing. So we're here to help answer any questions you might have and assist in any way that we can through our fire service experience and municipal interactions through the league across North Carolina.
Chief Grayson, if I may, and before we enter into questions, but certainly Mayor and Council, one thing that we did that we felt like, I feel pretty good about what we did. We did some good things, but probably the top thing that we did, and I think you'll appreciate this, the only thing that that's harder is moving a fire station out of a neighborhood is moving a fire station into a neighborhood. And we were very in tune with that. We had a series of community meetings to talk about the anxieties and the thoughts of putting a fire station right in the middle of a residential area. And as I mentioned, we dealt with 5 different landowners to acquire the property to build our station. Probably like you, we heard everything that's imaginable. You're going to keep us up all hours of the night with sirens. You're going to keep us up at all hours of the night with lights. You're going to be training whenever. We're going to have to put up with the noise of everything you do at that fire station. The additional traffic out on our main street, traffic from the volunteers or the career staff that's responding to calls. So we listened to those things. We engaged them pretty early on with the plan. Chief Gratian mentioned the landscaping. We were pretty much sort of gridlocked on our landscaping because of our own zoning for our town, our zoning and regulations. So we had to reach some compromises on that. But I guess my point is just understand your neighborhood and understand what those folks are their concerns are, because again, we heard it all. Fortunately, with our good planning and talking to our neighborhoods, we avoided a lot of those anxieties that the neighbors had. And to date, yeah, sure, we had a few folks that complained about the location, the size, or some of those things. We've had very little complaints about, the noise or lights or people in and out 24 hours a day. So I think those are some good considerations. And then my last advice to you, don't underestimate the time and the effort that you're going to spend in building this station, because it is a process. It's not something that can come in overnight. We moved from a station that was built in 1953 to a new facility, and Chief Grayson mentioned that it could be a 20, 30, or maybe even a longer process. So just some considerations. Thanks, Chief Grayson. Thanks for allowing me to say that.
Questions from the group we could help you with? Anybody? Concerns? Anything you'd like to ask that we could try to reflect on what we see in other areas, or best practices, or concerns that you'd like to ask us about?
Nobody has anything?
There may be a couple questions in your chat box at the bottom.
I think that was us getting ready for, trying to get our sound working.
Yeah.
We went to several technical support sites, so that's probably what.
Okay, no one sitting here has, Shannon, do you have any questions? Okay. I guess not.
Very good. Greg, I want to take just a second and thank you and Chief Hutchins for your time today. And I apologize for the technical difficulties, but we were able to hear you and see your presentation, and we're very thankful for your assistance today talking about public engagement. Joe, did you have anything before I finish up with Greg?
No, I just echo what the chief said. Thank you for your time and your expertise.
Anything we can do to assist y'all moving forward, let us know. We're really proud to work with the league, and we get to work with large cities and small towns and across the state, and we get to see a lot of different things. So one of the values we have is trying to connect you with other communities that have been through the same thing. There's a lot of folks building fire stations right now, so I would say to you the interest rates are such that a lot of communities are saying this is a good time to do this. So if we can help you and connect you to other folks, we're glad to try to do so. If you have questions, technical or otherwise, feel free to give us a call. Always glad to help Zebulon in any way that we can.
Thank you.
Thank
you. That concludes that part. And I guess a question for you, Shannon's on here. We can all drop off if she's staying for the rest of your meeting. I'll leave that up to you guys, some guidance from you on that.
Yeah, well, we do have a closed session.
Chris, you'll have to stay up.
Thank you.
They'll just have to drop off.
Sure.
There you go.
What'd you say, Lisa?
He got it. It's perfect.
Oh, okay. Okay, need a motion to go into closed session that's permitted by North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5 for the purpose of property. So be it.